Give us the elements of a ceasefire. What will it take to get to a ceasefire, with or without a UN resolution?
Well, of course, we would like to have a Security Council resolution similar to 1860, which was adopted after the war at that time, 2008-2009. We would like to see a ceasefire put in place immediately, because this aggression against our people, in which there is a huge toll against the civilian population, especially among children and women, need to be stopped and need to be stopped immediately. If people in Gaza to go back to a normal life, then you can have a sustainable ceasefire. But if a ceasefire and to maintain the situation as it was before this war, then it will be a matter of time before we could have another cycle of violence, as we have witnessed for the third time in the last 7 years.
The Israeli argument is that the ceasefire has been rejected 3 times, not by Fatah and the West Bank, the Palestinian Authority, but by Hamas. How is it that anyone can persuade Hamas to get to a ceasefire?
Let me just put it this way, that in the Israeli side there were divisions and disagreement in the government, including the foreign ministers and others, that they had different point of view than Prime Minister Netanyahu. In our side, we had some discussions as to how we can bring this fighting to a halt. We reached a consensus among Palestinian groups, including Hamas, under the leadership of President Abbas, to bring a ceasefire through the mediation of Egypt. And we are ready and willing to have a delegation representing the national consensus government to go to Egypt once the ceasefire is in place, to negotiate legitimate concerns. And these legitimate concerns are not the concerns of one political party or group, are the legitimate concerns of all Palestinian people. What are these legitimate concerns? One is lifting the blockade and the siege, opening the crossings for the movement in and out of Gaza for individuals and for goods, allowing our people to fish in the sea in a depth of 12 miles, also dealing with the issue of prisoners, and also addressing the humanitarian situation in Gaza by reviving the Sharm el-Sheikh conference, in having money and funds to rebuild the schools, the infrastructure, the housing in the Gaza Strip. We need to show the people that once we have a ceasefire, that there will be fundamental change in your life. That will be a sustainable ceasefire.
Is President Abbas speaking with Mashal and others? I mean, in Hamas, the Hamas leadership, are they in regular contact?
He contacted the leaders of Hamas and the leaders of Jihad. And now my understanding, especially after the leadership meeting yesterday until the late hour in the evening in Ramallah, and what I announced, what I mentioned to you, is more or less the consensus among Palestinian leadership, and the national consensus government speak on behalf of all of the Palestinians, and President Abbas is the president of the state of Palestine, and he is ultimately the head of this national consensus government.
Is there competition between Egypt and Qatar and Turkey on being the chief negotiator, or is Egypt in a better position even if it has some tension with Hamas?
My understanding, everyone, including the countries that you refer to, they agree that Egypt will take the lead in terms of negotiating the ceasefire and the whole package.
The Israeli government's very upset about the shutdown of Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv, and that's become an issue, feeling that that gave Hamas a bit of a victory. Is that the way? Do you think Hamas is stronger as a negotiator now, as part of the unity government?
Well, you see, we succeeded in having national consensus government. That is in line with the national interest of the Palestinian people. It was Israel that was opposing it from day one. They went to all countries, including to the US administration, telling them destroy the national consensus government. We don't want the national consensus government. That's the leaders of Israel were saying. And in fact, you're following the debate in the Security Council. Israeli representative every day, including yesterday in the debate, they were saying to President Abbas, dissolve the national consensus government because we don't want you to have, from their perspective, allowing Hamas to be part of the national consensus government. So this war that the Israelis started is in part for the objective of trying to destroy the national consensus government. For us, the national consensus government is a significant step in putting an end to the division among the Palestinians. Hamas is part of our political component, and it is part of this national consensus government, not in terms of having ministers in the government. No political party has individuals in this national consensus government. It is a government of technocrats under the leadership of President Abbas, and it defends the interest of all the Palestinians in the West Bank, in Gaza, and East Jerusalem, and it is endorsed and supported by all political parties, including Hamas. We want that national consensus government to become stronger and to grow and to face the challenges that it is facing, particularly in the Gaza Strip, and in order to find solutions to these challenges so that the people in Gaza can say, yes, this national consensus government made a difference in our lives. It broke, it lifted the blockade. It changed our life to the better. Therefore, we will defend it more and more.
And do you think peace can come to the valley at some point? There has been centuries of fighting.
Inshallah, I hope so, because peace is the best solution. And how do we have peace? End occupation, allow for the independence of the state of Palestine, in which two states can live next to each other in peace and harmony, and then we accept each other as equal when we live in two independent sovereign states, and then we can open new chapters of our relationship to heal the wounds, to try not to be fixated on the suffering, but to look ahead of what we can do for our peoples and to what we can do for the region and beyond.